Hello and welcome back to the pod. Welcome back to the cast, the Future Web3 podcast, where each week we talk about everything to do with Web3, AI, and blockchain. This week we're going to focus on a tool that you can use in your business today that's not really in our usual wheelhouse, but it's something that's so useful we have to mention it, and that's no-code tools. Aleck, why don't you give us a little background on what no code is, and then we can dive into it a little bit with some examples on how you can use it.
Yeah, and I think we should also know this is our first late in the year podcast, so it gets dark at 2:00, so we got the lights on and trying to see what we're doing here. But anyway, on the no code side, so basically, I mean, it's pretty much as it describes itself. It's a tool that requires either generally no code or it's a small amount of code, like scripting type stuff. But overall, the whole idea with it is somebody who's more creative is able to use these tools and build. It could be automations, it could be dashboards, it could be any number of things really. Well, you used to have to get a developer in to build. Now somebody can just do it. Or a non-technical person can just do it. So the way it's done is it's most commonly it's a lot of pre-configured interfaces, and then it's kind of a drag and drop or configuration based approach. So again, you're probably thinking like, okay, that's great. What do I care? But it's pretty much any tool that a lot of the advanced tools that you might have on your plant floor or you might have in your enterprise stack. That you had to hire out a certain person or a certain group to come in and install, or had to have the OEM come in and install it themselves. With some of these newer products out there, you may not have to do that anymore.
Exactly. And I think a good way to think about it, and a good example of something that's low code or no code, would be like a website builder, like a Squarespace, something like that, where you can design your website, but there's a framework that you work within. And that's the whole idea behind no code and low code. Like, you don't have to go out and hire a developer to sit there and code all day to create your dashboard. And I think that dashboards are the number one thing with these no code solutions right now that you want to roll out, because there are limitations to no code and low code solutions, but creating custom dashboards for your Plan 4, I think, are very, very high.
And with the no code, it's going to have a big impact on a lot of the service providers that are in this space, because a lot of what they've built, a lot of these guys have built their businesses on developing tools that in a lot of cases are pretty standard and can be deployed over a lot of similar sites, a lot of similar customers. And at the same time, I think a lot of what they're doing isn't necessarily all that complex, and it can be easily templated. And a lot of companies have noticed that, smaller ones in particular, and have kind of built these pre-configured tools. You even notice it in like Microsoft Office to some extent. I mean, at least in the new version, you say you open up your Excel, they have an automate tab, and it has pre-built VBA macros basically that you can kind of drag and drop in. So everybody's doing it to some capacity, and then of course with all the ChatGPT stuff we've been talking about too, is now there's so many code generators that can handle everything in the back end for you.
To build off that, like, I'm thinking of if you're a small shop and everything, and you have a small administration team, you can build a no-code solution that would displace like a SaaS booking tool. Like you need a calendar with plugins, and to see where things are in the order process, you can build a no-code solution that'll replace that, as long as there's not too many inputs and too many team members building onto it. Like if you got a small team, like 5 or 6 people that are going to be looking at those reports, you can build a no-code solution for relatively, like, essentially no money, and yourself, and customize it how you want. And you can update it as you need. Like, you're not pigeonholed to the SaaS solution that you're currently buying right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that cost piece is like so big, because I mean, for most of our viewers, I mean, think of how much you're spending on you spent on software, and then how much you spent on the integration services or development services on top of that. Like, it's a lot. So if you can internalize some of that, like, it makes a massive difference. And then when you look at from like a payback period or an ROI, it's so much higher, because you didn't have people sitting there for hours and hours and hours building something. You probably had somebody come in and lay out like a framework for you, almost like some more upfront design work, just to make sure you're still following best practices in terms of how you're collecting, using, and displaying your data. But aside from that, most of that's being done in house. So your ROI is phenomenal on these tools.
Envision you're a painting contractor and you have a couple guys out there doing your painting. Like you can create a low code or a no code app for yourself without paying a monthly fee for all of your 5 or 6 guys. You can create one yourself that has a checklist at every single location and file storage locations where you can upload pictures for everything built within one app. You don't have to pay monthly for it. Like that's a huge thing.
Oh yeah, and imagine like it's customized to what your business does, because that's like a business like that, you can go out and there's dozens of platforms out there that will do that, but the configuration, and it's not even configuration, honestly, it is development to get it to the point where you need it. The newer solutions coming out now, the no code stuff is so it's built to be modular and it's built to be sandboxy, flexible style, so you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah, one thing to pay attention to though when you are going and exploring that is make sure you don't get into a proprietary no-code solution, because it's all based off of something, and there are tons of no-code solutions out there. Just make sure it's open source so you can bring it between platforms without having to start from scratch all over again. Like eventually, if you do create something that's phenomenal, like you will have to get a developer like down the road if you're going to be pushing out to your entire organization, like a few hundred people. But for small teams, like teams 5, maybe 10 people, like this is fantastic.
Yeah, I just met a guy the other day who had he has a small auto parts shop. It's they have about 10 employees, pretty small operation, but he needed like kind of like a plant floor information system, not like an MES or anything quite like that, but he needed like a plant floor information system. He has all these machines, he has all his data coming off of it, and he just needs to know like basics. How many parts am I putting out every day? Like he has no idea. He has like a general idea, but he doesn't know exactly. So you're not going to go to a plant floor system to do that, and spend 50, 100 grand installing that. It's just not sensible for a business like that. But we were chatting a bit, and he had been looking at a no-code system that I think was going to cost him like $250 a month or something. Upfront was maybe, I think he was hiring a guy for like $5,000 to like help him set it up, but it was like $250, and it's great because if you're a small business, I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, yeah, I'm not spending $50,000 on something like that. It's like, great news, you don't have to, but one day you will, though. That's the other piece of it, right? Because a lot of these tools aren't necessarily like they can scale, but they scale to a point. Mm-hmm. So especially when you're dealing with complex, like if you're integrating a lot of different facilities, or you have a complexity and you're like a lot of complexity in your production line, then that's when you might have to go to something a little heavier. But I think for most requirements and like basic like OEE and things like that, these tools are going to do it for you.
Yeah, and I think another good area to consider is when you create your own no-code solution, you're doing the upfront discovery phase of what you're going to look for in an actual solution. So when you do end up needing to hire a developer to make your full-blown solution, you already have the no-code version. Like, hey, I like this. Like, yeah, you have to start from scratch, but here's the roadmap of what I want it to do. Here's the deficiencies. Here's what I'm running into. Okay, now you can run with that, and that'll be extremely beneficial.
And this is something to look out for too, because again, looking to the future state, like you gotta make sure your data's in the right place. Make sure it's in the right place in the right format, because that's what's gonna. And I think the most of the no-code solutions I've seen don't handle like database schema and stuff like that. So it's like it's something that you end up doing up front anyway. So you can kind of own that, and similar to some of our previous discussions, that you have administration over your data and your database. So it's important to do.
I think we're sounding like the data guys. Like every single episode we preach like how important it is to own your own data, number one, and number two, have a good manage on your data. Yeah. That is the future currency. Like your data is the future currency.
Will be yours, because every company out there, especially industrial service provider, is trying to wrap their hands around it. Everybody is. And most companies, I think, are aware of that, and they are wise to it. I think that's the best way to describe it. They're wise to it. But I think as they're trying to take advantage of more of these new tools coming out, it's increasingly difficult because the people offering the tools don't necessarily they want your money, but they want to control more of the output that you're generating, if that makes sense. And by output I mean like the information that you're outputting, sort of thing. So maybe a little roundabout, but it's the bottom line is they are after more than just money from you, and you got to be aware of that.
Exactly. Now, switching gears a little bit, and maybe we're playing what if, but with the new Chat GPT Turbo and everything, and all their plugins that are coming out, and its ability to code a lot better. How do you see no code integrating with a GPT tool like that?
Yeah, I think it's nicely. I think the one thing I've found with even with ChatGPT, you still have to know a little bit of like how to code. You can't go in totally green necessarily, and it's going to do everything for you. It'll do a lot for you, but I don't think it'll do everything. At least in my experience, using it, it doesn't do everything for you. You still need a baseline understanding of either scripting or programming, development, but. I think in the lens of no code, though, I think it's going to have a huge impact, because most of what the low code, as they call it, is it's almost like HTML5 configuration in some cases. It's Python in a lot of cases, so it's stuff that's easier to work with to begin with. So it's easier to learn, and then what ChatGPT puts out is easier for you to understand. So I think, again, it just makes it more accessible, and that tool just adds to the value, the ROI sort of thing we were talking about before. You're spending less on specialized labor.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. Like it's two different solutions, but they build off of each other. Like, so you need one to then integrate with the other one, and then eventually you can move on to the other one, but you still need a base at the beginning. And I really do think these no-code solutions are going to increase people's awareness of coding, and how easy it is now with the new tools to do more coding.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how would you get started in something like this?
Well, again, it's going back to your thing about us being the data guys. Is you have to have some idea of what's coming off your plant floor, or what's available in your business. So that could be, if you have that already in some capacity, like maybe using Excel for some of your tracking. Maybe start looking at where that data is coming from and what the those connections are. If you have some kind of historian, start there. If you don't have any of that, you may want to get somebody in to help kind of structure this for you. It's not an expensive thing necessarily. Like, you're not paying for you don't need a big consultant to come in necessarily, like a KPMG or something. You don't need that. But you're looking for somebody who has experience in plant floor systems and can help set that base up for you, and then can recommend some tools that you can layer on and get you to an end result, or get you to an output very quickly. So really, it doesn't take a whole lot to get started at all. It's really just find somebody who's in your sector, in the manufacturing space or otherwise, who can help you lay out your framework.
Yeah, I think that framework layout is the most important part. The training aspect on how to use no-code or low-code solutions, very quick and easy to learn. Like, that's something that you could review with your team in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many resources out there as well online that after that day of training, your team will be all set.
Yeah.
I know this is a really quick one, but I think that's a good place to end. As with no code and low code solutions, like, it's very quick. It's very easy to wrap your.
It's pretty simple. There's not too much to cover on it necessarily. Well, there is a lot in terms of the tools that are out there. There's a plethora, like as many as you could ever want. But in terms of actually getting started on it, like, you don't there really isn't a whole lot that you need to start with. It's really make sure you have that base of data and information to pump into this thing, and from there you can get the insight that you need, or that you're looking for.
I think if you're interested, like, I would definitely task one of your team leads or one of your managers just to go look at no code and find a solution that they've been looking for, that they've been asking for budget for, and see if they can do it in no code first.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to do it.
Well, thanks again for joining us this week, where we talk everything to do with AI, blockchain, Web3. This week we did a little coding and how you can implement it in your business today. next week we'll be getting back a little bit more on the AI side of things. But till next time.
Thanks, everybody.